Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a special online event today called Discover the Spirits of Nature Global Community Program: How to Deepen Your Relationships with Animals, Trees, and Other Allies of the Middle World. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder, president, and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm delighted to be hosting today's program with one of my favorite teachers and deepest sources of inspiration for truly how to live in a sacred way, drawing from ancient wisdom traditions and shamanic lineages, but particularly learning just how to live on this planet in a way that is filled with reverence and respect for all of life. And we're going to be exploring that in more depth today with our featured faculty member. Her name is Sandra Ingerman. She's been really at the forefront of global shamanism for over 30 years. We've done dozens of programs with her. She has renowned respect on every level, internationally and locally, for bridging cross-cultural healing methods into our modern lives. So Sandra, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Stephen. And I am so excited about talking about this program tonight. I hope I can get my words out straight. So I'm really excited about inviting all of you into a continuing program that our global community started about 7 weeks ago. And it's been about building these amazingly strong, beautiful relationships with nature all around us, where we live and around the planet, and doing some healing work. And so I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about how this work that we're doing is a little bit different than the work that I'm known for in teaching classic shamanic journeying, because people get a little bit confused by what's the difference of what I have been teaching and what's so new about what this course is about right now. And so in shamanism, a classic ceremony that shamans perform around the world is what's called a shamanic journey into non-ordinary reality, into the transcendent realms of the lower world and the upper world, where there's helping compassionate spirits who take the form. They're formless energies, they're deceased, but they take the form of animals and plants and trees and people and insects and fairies and on, to give us guidance as human beings and to help us heal. And there's a whole nother territory in shamanism called the middle world. And that's where we're working in this program. So we're not working with helping spirits. Helping spirits are wonderful to work with, but we're going straight into nature and speaking to nature as if we're our ally for nature beings on the planet and they're allies for us. And so there was no prerequisite for part one of this program of learning shamanic journeying. And so I felt that we needed some guides. And so I called in some spirits that I work with. Many years ago, I started working with beings called the Ancient Ones. I call them the Ancient Ones. And I also work with the Divine Mother. And one of the reasons that I called them in to be our guides in the program is that as we explore the amazing beauty of nature that most of us are missing in our lives right now, there's also a level of pain and suffering that happens when we see how humans have treated nature and all that's going on in the world. And the Divine Mother and the Ancient Ones have unlimited ability to absorb our pain and remove our pain while we become conscious beings, but not where we beat ourselves up for all that's happening. And so they've just been wonderful guides for us in being able to relieve some of the pain that we experience as we explore the middle world, and the middle world being nature. And so in shamanism, how shamans use the middle world, journeying in the middle world, is they use it to do remote work. And so let's say that somebody calls me. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and somebody calls me up and says, "Oh, my brother is in the hospital in New York, and would you please perform a healing on his behalf?" And so I'll put up my drum and I'll start my journey. And basically, I experienced myself moving very quickly through the middle world to the hospital room that he's in New York, and I do my healing work on him. So how does this translate to the work that we're doing with nature? Well, for one, this is an online course. And so it's hard for me to sit and say, okay, let's all go outside and communicate with a nature being, or let's all journey to South Africa to talk to the elephants. We have to use a form of journeying in order for us to be able to travel all together through the middle world to make these profound connections with the beings that we share this planet with. And we're oftentimes used to, in shamanism, of running up to a tree or asking the wind or asking a hawk flying by, "Do you have advice for me?" And this course is different. This is not about getting guidance from nature. It's about how we see nature as family, our friends, as kin. Because in shamanic cultures, everything that was in the shaman's environment and in the shamanic community's environment was family. And so the shamans talked to the plants and they talked to the animals. The plants taught the people their healing properties, how to prepare the plants as medicine. Animals sacrificed themselves as food because there was such a connection of family and how everybody lived together and worked together and interacted together. And we're so disconnected from that world, but yet we love to run up and grab a tree and hug a tree and ask it for healing or ask it for wisdom. But what would happen if instead of running up to a tree, number one, you start with, "May I step into your field of energy?" So you're asking permission to even have contact, and that creates consent. And we've noticed so much that happened in part one of our course because we asked consent. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. And instead of asking a tree for advice or for healing, asking a tree, what's its history? What's its life like? What's its life been like on the planet? What's its life been like in the neighborhood that you live in? What's its life been like right outside your door? Or being able to journey to a hawk and talking to hawk and saying, "What's your history? What's it like?" Being able to fly through the air, and what do you see? And so what starts to happen is we start to build these relationships with nature beings. And so we feel like we have a greater family. We feel like we have kin that we could connect with, and we could be allies for nature, and nature can be allies for us. And so, what happened for people as we did the part one course is, yes, we had to deal with our feelings about what's happening on the planet to so much of nature right now. But at the same time, so many of us actually step through a portal into another dimension of reality right here where we live. We're not traveling into other worlds. We're right here, planet Earth, outside in your backyard or in the city where you live, and connecting deeply with all that's alive as family. And so people actually stepped into a dimension of reality where what all they could see was beauty. What all they could see was beauty. And I was right with the group as we did this. And so we never had a plan of continuing this course. It was going to be over in 7 weeks. But we ended up walking into such a magical territory, and people's lives changed on such a dramatic level. And we started to get these realizations and these understandings about the history of all the beings that we share the planet with, and their life, and the stories that they want to tell us, and how they want to learn about us as people too. And so I felt like we can't end here. We really have to keep going. And so, just to talk a little bit about where we started from, we started working with a ceremony that I titled Honorable Closure, because this is such an important part of the work when we work with nature. And this was the very first place where we started. We have pets. We have trees that are dying all around us, plants that are dying. We run across roadkill. There are natural disasters that happen on the planet, and our heart just breaks with all the death in nature that we get to see. And in working ceremonially, we can honor all those beings who died. And so we perform ceremonies, honoring ceremonies, wishing them good journeys home. And so we started to bring in the principle of how do we honor and respect those beings that we love, and we don't know how to show them our love when we died. And so this is a very critical ceremony that we learned to help all of us as we witness the personal death that we have with our pets, and the death that we experience in nature as species are going extinct and as beings are dying from a variety of different reasons. And this included, and this is a very important thing for us to all learn as we're connecting with nature, is in the shamanic community, we're always talking about animal cruelty and animal rights. And we don't understand that because so many thousands of people are being drawn to shamanism right now and wanting to work with their sacred tools, that the commercial aspect of making sacred tools for all of us to use in the shamanic culture were not always done in an honoring way. Yes, there are many people who make their shamanic tools with love and sell them, and there are many people who make their own. But for those of you who own drums and rattles and feathers and crystals, do you know the source of where they came from? And so we have to bring in honor and respect. And so we worked with honorable closure to be able to clear our relationship with our sacred tools who become partners in our life. They become our best friends. But the bottom line is birds are being killed at enormous, horrifying numbers because of all the feathers that are needed for making shamanic tools. And crystals are being mined in dishonorable ways. Some crystals are being mined to extinction. The people who are doing the mining are not being treated in a good way. So, how do we clear? How do we bring honor to this process? And so we did a lot of work with honorable closure just on the materials that go into the sacred tools that we use. So then we can bless them, and then they can really become allies for us instead of just these objects that we use for our shamanic work. And so, for example, we journeyed to learn about crystals. We went to the crystal beings and we said, may we step into your field of energy? And we started to learn about the power of crystals and what they can transmit and what their life is like on the planet. And then we went and did a healing ceremony, and I chose the healing ceremony. We all journeyed through the middle world together to a mine in Tanzania, because tanzanite is a gem that is being mined into extinction. And we did some healing work of emanating love. You know, there's so much that we can do with nature. Nature responds, not just from our words, when we say we love you and when we say we honor and respect you, but when we can step into the field of energy of nature and emanate love through silence and emanate honor and respect, everything changes. And so we had some very powerful experiences doing ceremonies like that, like all journeying to the coral reefs. And doing some healing work by emanating love and light, and watching some of the results of that work. And we spoke to the plant people, and people are so bonded now with the plants that they have growing in their homes and the plants in their gardens. And now they know how to plant a garden filled with kindness and love and light and honor and respect. And people have been working with trees that in their neighborhood are being cut down, and talking to the trees and spending time with them. And so we started to create these unbelievable relationships with nature far away. We journeyed as a group to elephants in South Africa and crow in the Midwest cornfields. And oh my God, the conversations, learning about the lives of the crows, and all they wanted to learn from us was amazing. And some people in our group rolled around in lavender fields in southern France and developed a relationship with bees. And so we developed these strong relationships right where we live, and also with the creatures that we share the planet with. And because we have middle world journeying, we were able to go anywhere on the planet. And we had amazing experience merging with dragonfly. Dragonfly is 300 million years old, and it hasn't changed in 300 million years. And dragonfly has 30,000 aspects to its eyes. And so they have a completely different perception. They see a world that we don't see. They see colors that we don't see. And so many people in the group merged with dragonfly and got life-changing experiences of understanding how we can all adapt to the times that we're living in. Some of the experiences around Dragonfly were so profound that it really took me it took me days of reading some of the posts over and over and over again just to absorb the wisdom just from the connection between human and nature. It was really beautiful. And so, some people ask the question, well, how do we know that nature's really responding to us? And, how do we know these things? And it's just this more new age work. And so I wanted to share a story, a really powerful story of a way that we worked years ago. It wasn't in a Ship Network class, but I used to teach in Findhorn, Scotland. And I came home from a workshop and I was contacted by a member in the community there. And he asked me if we were going to be doing any long distance ceremonies, because I do long distance ceremonies at all my workshops. And I said, yeah, I have a workshop coming up and we're going to be doing long distance healing work. And he said, well, I have this philodendron and I'm wondering if I sent you a picture of the philodendron, if you would put the picture on the altar at your group. And I said, sure. And he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up a machine to the philodendron to be able to record its activity. And so we were doing this ceremony where we were just radiating love and light to every being in the room. And we weren't even paying attention to the philodendron. Its picture was on the altar. But wow, it was, for us, it was like 8 o'clock at night. And for the philodendron, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And the activity when we did that ceremony, and it was thousands of miles away, was mind-blowing. And so we know from all the research that plants and trees, they talk to each other, but they also receive, they receive so much of the energy that we share. And I like to share that philodendron story because it's so dramatic. It was thousands of miles away, and it just woke up in the activity during the ceremony was so profound. It was really amazing. And for the people who kept writing on Facebook, everybody who wrote, they started with, may I step into your field of energy with nature where they lived. And what started to happen was all of a sudden more birds started showing up, more animals started showing up. A whole field of energy got changed and in the landscape where they live, and animals got attracted to that. And so it was just so exciting for us to be able to witness and to see the beauty and to hear the stories of the lives of the insects and the animals and the plants and the crystals and the stones and the trees, and to talk to your source of water. Talk to your source of water where you live as if it's a friend. Can you imagine the difference how water tastes when water is your friend and you're having a relationship and conversations back and forth as a friend, and doing the same thing with land? And so this all became just so exciting for all of us, and especially the whole topic of fields of energy opened up for us, and how important it is to have consent. And so in the continuation, because all of a sudden the course was over, and we're like, no, we want to keep going. And I want to keep going. And so we developed a plan for are working together once a month for 6 months to continue the work. And so that's why I wanted to share with you a little bit of what we did in part one, so you understand the context of where we're moving to in the next part of the course, in the community part of the course. I'm just getting some of my notes together here. And so fields of energy became a really big topic, and I want to explore that with everybody who's interested. I want to explore that with you. And so we learned, when you ask, may I step into your field of energy, something changes in relationships. Something big changes in relationships. And so, how do we create healthy fields of energy around us? Because we can't always control who's stepping into our field. That's just the life that we live. And so, how do we start to create fields of energy around us that are healthy? And what fields of energy do we want to step into? So we want to start exploring when we go into Facebook and when we go into the computer. What's the field of energy that we're stepping into? When we eat certain foods, what's the field of energy that we're stepping into? So looking with more discernment about what are healthy fields of energy that we want to step into and work with in our lives. And if we're dealing with an illness, that's a field of energy too. How do we step out of the field of energy of depression? How do we step out of the field of energy of anxiety and stress? How do we step out of the field of energy of a specific illness that we're dealing with? These are exciting topics that we want to explore, because the ancient ones, who for me, they're timeless beings, they're billions of years old, they have so much to share about fields of energy. And also, there is a place of suffering that we step into, a field of energy of suffering that we do step into, because we're caring people who are attracted to shamanic work are empaths. And so we feel so deeply the pain that other beings are experiencing right now on the planet in being treated in such a dishonorable fashion. And so most of us are carrying a tremendous amount of pain in our bodies that can actually twist us up and can create problems in our lives. And so we really want to look in the continuation. This is a big part of the continuation, is understanding more about what fields of energy are healthy for us to step into, how we create healthy fields of energy for ourselves, our land, in our house, in our city, and how do we help clear our field of energy by learning how to let go of the pain that we're carrying. And so we're going to be doing a lot of ceremonial work to start to unburden ourselves of some of the pain that we're carrying as we watch what's happening in nature. And we had such amazing experiences working with so many different animals and insects. And so we want to continue with that. As I shared, Dragonfly was a real highlight. Meeting Dragonfly was a highlight for so many of us. And I've been so interested in octopuses. It's not octopi, it's octopuses. I wrote a couple of years ago, I wrote all this material on on how scientists are just amazed by their biology. They're not even sure that they're earth beings, and their brain capacity and the neurons that they have all over their body. And so what can we learn from octopus as we continue in our global community program? That's going to be one of the journeys that we're going to do, and we're going to continue to journey to troubled places on the planet where there is a tremendous amount of dishonor going on towards certain species. And for example, what's the work that we can do in the next 6 months for the whales who are dying of starvation at record numbers? How can we honor their process right now? And how do we understand for ourselves how the universe is always creating? There's death, but there's always creation that comes from that. So what are some future species that are going to inhabit the planet? And what kind of friendships can we create with them and learn about their life and have them learn about us? And what would it be like to explore more of different galaxies? Which is something that we definitely explored in part 1 too. And we had some really powerful work with crystals. We did some really powerful work with crystals. And so I would like to try a remote experiment using my mother crystal, which I used in part 1, and I taught some healing methods with crystals that you can use on friends, loved ones, and clients. And so I want to do an experiment of merging with my shamanic teacher, Isis, and transmitting the power of my mother crystal, which I've done in physical groups before, to crystals or stones that all of you are holding. And the last time I worked with transmitting from my mother crystal, clients who picked up crystals from my students who had those little crystals holding that energy were just healing just by holding them. What can we learn about how much crystals can transmit for healing? So that's going to be definitely one of our sessions, and really continuing our process of emanating love and emanating kindness and learning about the history of beings from the past and beings in the present that we live with and beings in the future, and how can we continue our work with plants. We learned so much about how plants communicate with us and each other and what plants need, but also what plants can give us. And so I'm just looking at my notes over here to see what I'm missing. And God, there's so much. And how can we create an ancestor tree where we can start performing ceremonies for our nature being ancestors and the nature beings that we have now? In shamanic cultures, so much is understood about time and about the light and the dark. But there's also a topic that's not talked about that much, is the power of dusk. That's a magic time in shamanic cultures. That's a magic time in shamanic cultures. And so this is one of the topics we're also going to be exploring too. What happens when we make friends with dusk, and what can we learn from that? and what are unique beings that we never thought about meeting before? I mean, phytoplankton and microorganisms, and we did work with fungi, but there's so much that we can learn from mushrooms. They eat radiation. They heal all kinds. Mushrooms are such healing beings. They're such allies for us. What can we learn? So that's where we're continuing to. All of what I just shared is going to be in our 6-month course. And there are going to be 3 different aspects of it, of looking at the personal healing we have to do. What pain do we need to release? How do we create healthy fields of energy around us? And then working with nature beings. Sometimes it'll be nature beings that you want to meet. So everybody in the group will be doing their own journey work, which I will guide. And sometimes we'll be going as a whole group, as ambassadors to different species, and talking back and forth and developing relationships. And how can we help those species at this time on the planet that are suffering? Is there any action that we can take? How can we educate our communities? People after part 1 started talking to their friends and community members about needing to honor their sacred tools and finding out the source of the materials. People started going out into their communities and talking more about plastic. People started having projects of cleaning up areas because there was such a desire to educate our community members to how we can be more responsible and honor nature. And as we honor nature, nature will always honor us. And so it's just really exciting work. And I can only tell you that our lives changed. Something happened. Something really magical happened. People felt like they were in their bodies for the first time in their life. People felt like they were rooted to the earth for the first time in their life. And it didn't matter if people lived in the city or if they lived in the suburbs. So I'm just so excited about being able to continue this work. It was so meaningful to me and to our community. And so I'd really like to invite all of you into our group where you will have the opportunity to experience what we experienced in part 1 and then continue this adventure along with us to see what amazing relationships we can build and what happens to us when we step into a whole different dimension of reality right where we live, where we're only seeing the beauty of life, where we're seeing the beauty of life. Imagine the healing that occurs for you. Imagine the healing that occurs for the collective when we do this. So that's a lot. And Stephen, I haven't let you say anything during.
Well, your passion is very contagious, and I just want to honor you for the whole new world of possibilities that can open up when you do this kind of work. I mean, talking about journeying in to understand the nature of consciousness of an octopus and understand what does that teach us. You know, instead of we so relate in a very kind of mechanistic or ends focused way with the natural world and animals. This really opens up this whole way of seeing reality that is like we're entering into this multiple viewpoints of reality. We can learn from every creature around us. It's like there's a great shift in the ground of being that I think you're offering, which we're so delighted that you have brought this work forward. So I'll say a few things on a more logistical level about the program. So you can find all the detail about this program at spiritsofnatureprogram.com, just as it sounds, spiritsofnatureprogram.com. So Sandra's done a great job of explaining the high level. So anybody who was not part of the Part 1 program already, when you join, you get access to that, and so you can catch up and basically join with the rest of the group and get the full benefit of understanding all the practices that are the foundation for the further explorations. There's also a lot of great bonuses that complement the core value of the program. So if you look on the page there, you'll see that there's a whole dialogue with Sandra Ingerman called "The Divine Feminine Helps to build our spiritual immunity." That's with my beloved Deva, Haley Mitchell. There's a dialogue with Sandra Ingerman hosted from our Dreaming Summit on 21st Century Shamanism, Transforming the World We Live In. There's a dialogue with David Nickel on shamanism and subtle activism. There's also a couple of extra bonuses that are available today when you sign up, just as an extra incentive for you to go to the page at spiritsofnatureprogram.com and to really just give it a read, tune in, catch the enthusiasm, the power, and the really new worlds that open up that Sandra has been talking about. And if you get the impulse to move forward today, then you have two extra bonuses. There's one with Sandra and Lynn Roberts called "The Healing Power of Nature," and there's another on soul stealing impacts your ancestral line. That's particularly intriguing. Sandra, anything you want to share about that extra bonus on soul stealing impacts your ancestral line?
Yeah, I'm actually a Stephen King fan, just because of some of the esoteric work that he brings in. And there's a whole aspect in shamanism that we don't talk about that much, but I bring it into my soul retrieval work of how we have a behavior pattern where we actually steal other people's souls. And that is passed down through our ancestors. Our parents didn't say this is how you steal a person's soul, but we learned. Siblings, brothers and sisters, my God, as a therapist, if you watch the energy that's being exchanged, and through jealousy, I want your power, I want what you have, and we don't understand the impact that it has on us psychically. And so it's a wonderful bonus of me explaining how shamans, one of the classic healing methods in shamanism, is needing to do a soul retrieval when a soul has been stolen. And so this classic work, I talk about it fully, and I talk about how we can start healing our own lives, our whole ancestral line, and the future of our descendants by stopping this behavior. You know how we talk about "my lover stole my soul." There's a lot of country western songs around that. And it's actually something that happens. And so it's a very enlightening conversation.
Wow, that's amazing. I encourage you to go to spiritsofnatureprogram.com. You can read a lot more detail on all the modules, all the practices. There's also, just kind of on the high level, you get not only the 6 2-hour class sessions that are on video, so they're more interactive, they're more intimate that way. You get video recordings, you get small group practice time every week, there's 6 2-hour there's 6 30-minute small group practice sessions. There's a Facebook online community. We do PDF transcripts of each session. And the program starts on May 21st. So it's going to be running on Tuesdays at 5 Pacific time for the majority of for all of the program main sessions. And then the bonuses you get immediate access to as well. And the Part 1, if you haven't gone through Part 1 before. If you did go through Part 1 already, there's a special link for you to register. So it's a lot of value, a full 6-month journey. You can access it for just 3 payments of $209, or you can get about a 10% discount when you pay in full with $594. So it's really a powerful offering to yourself and ultimately to our world to establish this kind of bidirectional, deeply egalitarian relationship with the natural kingdom, the middle world, that opens up new possibilities for our consciousness and our evolution on this planet and really living in a sacred way. So Sandra, we're super excited that you're offering this program and really grateful to you for opening up these new pathways for sacred a living and embodied practice.
Yeah, and we're also extending the course a little bit because I usually, in all my courses, I teach straight for an hour and a half because there's journeys, there's ceremonies that we want to do. But a lot of people are choosing not to be on Facebook these days. And so I wanted to give people the opportunity to be able to ask questions live during the session. So we're extending the sessions a little bit so we have more time so that people can share their experiences and what's coming up for them live on during the sessions too. So it's going to just be a really full and rich and beautiful time together.
Great. And I should note that Sandra is one of our most active faculty on Facebook groups. She's very engaged in answering questions. And so that really enhances the value because there's this really collective field of practice and intention that activates around each of her programs. So we know it's going to be a powerful community to support you. So we have about 15 minutes left. So let's go to any questions from the audience. Remember, you can just type those on the page. So Maria asks, how to be able to discern what is just a creation of my own imagination, what is actual communication from nature to me, and how to understand that language?
Well, that's a question that we all have in shamanic journeying. Are we making this up? And actually, in my 35 years of teaching, I've never met anybody who didn't ask that question. And the only answer I can give you is by watching the results. Watching the results when you have that opportunity to actually speak back and forth with a tree in a park where you live or right by your house or a raven, or we had these amazing conversations with crows. Something changes within you, Maria. Something changes within you, and you know the truth. You feel it in your cells. You feel it. Your life changes. It transforms, and that's how you know it's real.
Great. There's an anonymous questioner says, I was told that whenever a non-human creature died willingly to offer its life for the good of other beings, it helped to upgrade rapidly towards a higher level evolution. In other words, its soul was going to activate in connection with an evolved human body. What do you feel about this?
Well, that's a beautiful theory. It's a beautiful theory. That's all I have to say. And any being that sacrifices itself, it's going to be honored in all worlds and in all its incarnations.
Deb asks, just by being human and alive on the planet at this time, we are complicit in the injury of the natural world. It is kind of moral injury as we're both perpetrator and witness to horrific trauma to our allies, to all of our relations. How can those of us who are earth bonded, earth empathic, shamanic practitioners cope with and reconcile this deep anguish?
Well, that's a huge part of the course. And that was what I was trying to explain, is that in part one, what happened for us, there were two levels of the work. There was the suffering we felt as empaths because we're not honoring nature. The way we're killing animals for our food and on and on and on, our clothes, our building materials, you know everything of what's happening. And so one part of the course is, what is the healing work that we have to do for these beings? How do we provide honorable closure for them? How do we honor the lives that were lost due to human behavior? So that's a big part of what we're doing, is honoring those beings that died. And then working with the ancient ones and the Divine Mother in healing ceremonies to help us release the pain that we're carrying, because this is part of human evolution. This is where we're at right now. And it's not for us to beat ourselves up. It's for us to become more conscious beings, change our behavior. And so one of the things that we have to do is to start to heal some of the pain that we're experiencing. And so in the 6-month community group, I will be leading ceremonies for most of the 6 months. We'll be doing healing ceremonies to deal with the pain of what we're taking on as empaths and how to release that, so that we can fully participate in stepping through that portal into the dimension where nature wants to laugh with us and dance with us and learn more about us and talk to us. And so there are different phases of the work, and we embrace it all. We embrace it all. We don't deny any of it. We go deeply into it, and we heal together through the support of our community and the support of nature, who wants us to heal also.
So Leonore asks, I have a caterpillar phobia since childhood. I know they represent metamorphosis, but they startled me when I encountered them. I've identified the feeling similar to my relationship with my father. I'd like to know how to release this overwhelming feeling and befriend the caterpillar.
Well, and basically, you want to ask Caterpillar if you can step into its field of energy and start by saying, I'm terrified by you. I'm absolutely terrified by you, and I'd like to learn more about you. And that's going to change for you. I used to be terrified of worms and snakes, and I started to talk to them. I started having conversations with them and realizing they're sentient beings on the planet who have an energetic signature that's contributing to our entire web of life. They have a beauty. Every being on the planet, no matter how you feel about them, has a beauty, has an energetic signature that is contributing to our survival, to the web of life. And so those beings that we're scared of, may we step into your field of energy, and may I learn about you so that I can feel more comfortable with you.
So Kelly says, thank you so much for all you do. Your courses in 2017 have truly changed my life. Are the sessions going to be once a month for 6 months? I may have missed it during the call.
Yes, they're going to be, because of my schedule, and I want to do all the sessions live. We're going to meet once a month for 6 months. There'll be, I will be constantly sending out practices that we can do between that time. And if you are on Facebook, as Stephen said, I am very much part of the daily conversation of what's going on. So we continue the work. And so there'll be emails from me about work that we can continue during the month so that you'll never feel disconnected from the group and you'll never feel disconnected from the work. You'll just feel like we're flowing month to month together.
Frederick asks, how do you use shamanism together with Reiki?
You know, I don't practice Reiki, but I know a lot of people who do, and so they work with their own helping spirits in asking for what are the best ways to combine the work. But there are so many practitioners who do combine the work. And what we're doing in this course is somewhat similar in that we're working a lot with emanating love and light and seeing how our relationships deepen when sometimes we move away from words and we work through transmissions and we work through the silence. And so we do both. We work through the silence and we also work with the words too, learning the language of nature.
So Victoria and Maya says, if we don't have time to participate until June and can't start now in May, will we be able to catch up and continue with the group synergy?
Yeah, and that's been part of every course that I've taught on the Shift Network. Is that most people, a lot of people can't listen live. Not most, but a lot of people can't listen live. They're traveling, they have work, all kinds of things. The time isn't right for them. And the wonderful thing about shamanism, whether we're journeying in the middle world to nature spirits, as we're doing here, or working with helping compassionate spirits, we're outside of time. And so whenever you step into the material and whenever you step into the healing ceremony, because we'll have a healing ceremony for every session, whenever you step in, you're part of that collective and you're building on the power of the collective. Nobody has ever felt like they were missing a thing by not listening live. And so what I tell people is you have a whole lifetime to do this material, and our collective, our community is always going to exist. And so you're always going to get the benefit no matter when you do the work.
Elizabeth asked, what does it mean to be a shamanic practitioner?
Well, in shamanism, it's seen as bad luck to call yourself a shaman, because it's seen about bragging about your power. It's your community that calls you a shaman. If you do really good healing work for people in your community says, oh, you should go see that shaman in New York, or you should go see that shaman in Santa Fe, or wherever. So you get that name, shaman, from your community. So a way of being humble is to say, instead of I am a shaman, I practice shamanism, and I'm a shamanic practitioner, meaning you're not bragging about your power, you're stating the truth. You're a shamanic practitioner who journeys for guidance and possibly to perform healing work for others.
Great. Sarah, what to do when you are an empath and feel the suffering of Mother Earth too deeply?
Yeah, well, that's been an issue that came up, in our course, and of course, it's an issue that comes up for all of us. For myself, I'm just going to be real honest, and I talk about this very frankly in the course. I got very ill from watching too many animal cruelty videos, and I got very ill watching all of what's happening to the earth. And the bottom line is the earth is actually 4.6 billion years old. And so what the ancient ones give us, and this is an amazing perspective that the ancient ones give us, is about time, that we're looking at a very short period of time. What the ancient ones teach us is that everything that's happening on the earth right now is less than a blink of an eye to the earth, less than a blink of an eye in time. And so, yes, we're empaths. Everybody engaging in the nature courses are feeling this. And so in every session, I bring in ways to work with this, and how we've been working with it and will continue to work with it is by doing healing ceremonies for ourselves, as well as nature, but healing ceremonies for ourselves to release some of the pain. And again, to work with the ancient ones and the Divine Mother, because they are beings that have the capacity to take the pain that no longer serves us, because it's time for us to be conscious beings, and it's time for us to engage fully in life and not just get lost in the suffering of what's happening.
Great. Anonymous asks, when we ask a tree, may I step into your field of energy? How do we know if the tree has given us permission to do so?
Well, it's very interesting because it's been obvious to people. And there have been a few people who have gotten wait, let me think about that, or maybe step into the field of energy to the tree next to me. But there's been it's just, I can't describe it. You have to try it. Go out and ask a tree if you can step into its field of energy, and you feel it in your heart. You feel it in your cells. Remember, we're not just visual beings. We feel everything in our body. And when you have consent, you know it. It's not a question. And so go out and try it. And this will not be a question for you. With the very first nature being that you ask that question to, you're going to know it in your body and you're going to feel it.
Great. Wow. Well, there's so much we could explore. And Sandra, you're just a fountain of fascinating wisdom and insight into these areas. But we're nearing the end of our time. And so I just want to encourage people again to go to the page at spiritsofnatureprogram.com. Again, spiritsofnatureprogram.com. When this call is over, really read it through, tune in. You might even do a shamanic journey around it, whatever it takes to get clarity, since you do get extra bonuses when you sign up today. So that's really to your advantage to tune in with all this information, all of this wisdom that's been shared, and to really make your decision now. And when you do, you get the 2 extra bonuses. One is a dialogue with Sandra and Lynn Roberts, and then called The Healing Power of Nature. And the other is that very cool sounding dialogue on soul stealing impacts your ancestral line. So again, this is a really unique program. It's going to be a powerful 6-month community, a really deep dive into a whole paradigm shift in how you relate to the natural world. And you also get access to the full part 1 when you sign up as well. So Sandra, in the closing minute, anything you just want to speak from your heart to the folks that hasn't been spoken?
The only thing I want to say is it was so unexpected, the transformation people made in this course. It was unexpected to me. It was unexpected to the community. And so I invite you in to step with us to learn how to let go of the pain we're carrying as empaths and step through that portal into the magic of life and feel at home in your body, feel at home on the earth, and feel like you have this amazing new community of friends with the nature beings in your landscape.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Sandra, for this illuminating hour. And thank you for this offering of this program. And thank you all for joining us and your commitment to healing our relationship with our beloved planet and all of the four-leggeds and plant allies who reside here with us. It's a whole new world of evolution that's awaiting as we really learn to partner in communion with the natural world. So thank you for embarking on that exploration, and you're warmly welcome to take the next step in the 6-month program with Sandra at spiritsofnatureprogram.com. So thanks all. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks.